We are live. All right, there we go. Okay, we should be live. Hello to anyone who is here. I'm still getting used to this whole restream software, and we're going live in like a bunch of different places. So be patient with me for the first few weeks as I'm getting used to this. But hi to everyone who's joining. I've got Instagram with Restream. I've got Instagram separately on like a separate window, and then I've got Facebook open via Facebook and YouTube. I can see the comments in one place. And so I won't be doing a very good job of commenting and answering everybody, at least initially. Maybe we can like do questions at the end because we're always going to repurpose this to the podcast, but that's where we're at. I'm still, like I said, getting used to this. So, okay. I know it is April. So then I know that I am quite a bit behind on this whole trend of like what's in, what's out. But as I shared with you guys last week, I did actually wind up recording a podcast episode on this. And then I wound up just wanting to re-record everything, do things live. And so I still wanted to talk to you about a lot of those things because it's not only what I feel is really relevant or irrelevant in my own business and like what feels important and what feels like it's not so important for me, but I also wanted to speak to a lot of this from a perspective of what I think is important for you as well. Because as I talked about last week, and as I've talked about, many times before, I always want to be like open and honest and transparent with you in the sense that if you're feeling like business is different, if you're feeling like business is harder over the past year, year and a half, 2 years, like you're not alone. I am not at all in a place where I am struggling in business, while at the same time, things are significantly different than they were for the other years and years that I've been doing this, right? Like I started coaching in 2015. I changed my business into a more scaled model in 2017. But from 2017 to probably like 2022, everything felt very the same. Everything felt very steady. It didn't feel like there were these big like shakeups and waves in the industry or just in like the world as a whole in terms of like business and showing up online. And so again, I always want to be that person that for you is sitting there saying and reminding you that the opportunities for you to still make a fuck ton of money are certainly there, right? Like I never want you to be in this place of fear and scarcity, while I also want to give you that dose of reality of like, I think some things need to be different. And in a lot of cases, doing things the way that you have been doing them, it's probably not going to work as well or for that much longer. And so, again, as I process and as I think about what I want to be different in my own business, that I not only make more money and am more successful, but also so that it all feels good and it feels aligned for who I am and where I'm ultimately going. And again, sharing that with you. And so, like I said, I know it was an early year trend, and so we're a little bit behind here, but I'm going to go through three things that for me personally feel in, three things that personally feel out, and hopefully you get to take that, for yourself and put it through your filter and decide what feels aligned for you. So, sorry, I'm still getting used to like moving all of these screens around. It's a little bit overwhelming, but I'm doing my best here. So, the first in is giving more. If you have been in the online world for the past few years, I think that it was a situation where for so long, so much content, like especially in the form of long form live videos, master classes, it was such a big thing for a really long time. And to stand out, a lot of coaches, a lot of people were constantly doing those things like the webinars, the master classes, live challenges, all of that kind of stuff. And then I think that we got to this place in the online coaching world where it almost like we like hit this bubble where everything started being so much more about ego, about how much money everyone was making, what bags everybody was showing off, so on and so forth. And I think that that in some weird ways also translated to let's all do as much as or as little as humanly possible while also charging as little as possible. And I'm not saying this necessarily in a bad way, but things like doing discovery calls or consultations, it certainly went out the window. And again, I'm not saying that in a bad way because I feel like I was one of the, that sounds dramatic for me to say it this way, but like I was one of the people years ago who was talking about not doing sales calls. So I'm not trying to like villainize that at all because for a long time that was not an important part of my business model, especially the way that I was selling, blah, blah, blah. But again, I think it became this trend or this normal way of thinking for so many people that the goal was to, again, show up as little as possible, charge as much as possible, have as little interactions with human beings as possible, but then just focus on the money. And I always want to be clear here with you that like I still want to make a fuck ton of money. I want you to make a fuck ton of money. Like we're not sitting there trying to act like Mother Teresa and like we don't want to be wildly successful. While at the same time, I feel as though so many people in just focusing on the money goal, so on and so forth, stopped showing up from a true place of nurturing, from a place of giving, from a place of really pouring into their community. And with that, therefore, not showing up as the true authorities that so many people actually are. Again, it was this watered down version of like, let's do, like I said, as little as possible. And I like that we're in this place where it is a little bit more crowded, a little bit busier, if you will, online and in the world, where you just doing the bare minimum, showing up, creating the bare minimum amount of content, it's not going to fucking work. It's not going to fly. And I see that, I view that as this really cool opportunity for me to step it up, for my clients to step it up and truly be the authorities that we are. And, I was thinking about this the other day, like, I still feel like I give a lot in my business in terms of my content, but I was just reflecting on the days where, back in 2017, 18, whatever, like I would do like monthly live challenges that were 5 days and people would submit their homework and I would literally read through all of it. And like I would show up like fucking crazy. And I'm not saying that I'm about to go all the way to that other side of things at all, because that was insane. But I also was able to just in thinking about that, recognize what a stark contrast there was between that and like later years. And again, I think that so many people are walking around in this business wanting to make more money, wanting to get more sales, but not showing up and not giving appropriately. And the other way that I want to say this is, I mean, the name of this podcast is You're Fucking Welcome, right? The name of it's tattooed on my wrist for God's sake, right? Like I am all about you selling and selling unapologetically. But again, going from this place where years ago that was not as much of a thing. I don't mean to sound arrogant in this way, but like I was teaching and I was preaching about selling every day a long time ago, like before a lot of people were, before it was anywhere near normalized in this industry, I was talking about it. So again, I'm saying that because I've been all about selling and selling unapologetically for years now, and I'm still all about that. But I think as an industry as a whole, we tried so hard to get so many people on board with this idea that like, yes, you're entitled to sell. Yes, you should be selling. You shouldn't be sorry about it, so on and so forth, that I feel like so many people are not understanding that they're spending most of their time selling and far less time actually giving, actually nurturing, actually showing up and sharing their authority. And that is hurting them more than the selling, like not selling enough is. And so, again, for me personally, and my advice to you essentially is giving yourself the permission and getting excited again about really showing up and nurturing your people and giving more and showing off who you are, what you do, letting people feel real value from you versus coming from this place of like, how little can I possibly give? How little can I get away with in order to still get the sales? And I want to be clear as I say that, because I've never been like a gatekeeper, right? Like I've never been somebody who has intentionally held back, not told you things, not shared things, and I've never showed up to a single training, anything in my life being like, okay, how little can I possibly share with them? But I think for a long time, and I know that a lot of you will resonate with this, I think for a long time I got it in my head that if I was still working hard, I was doing something wrong. The goal was to have this copy and paste business. The goal was to have my team running everything. And if I was still showing up on live videos or God forbid in Canva, I was doing it wrong. And so again, there was this pressure for myself for a while there to again show up less, give less. And I'm just in a place now where I've not only remembered how much I enjoy truly like pouring into my community and showing up and doing live videos, trainings, whatever, but also I feel like it's more important than ever that I am showing up in that volume oriented way and being so good people can't ignore me, right? Not giving them a choice but to hear what I have to say and read my words, so on and so forth. And again, I just want to encourage you to get back to that place, especially if you are somebody who is not happy with your sales now. The idea that you are somebody who is not making the money that you want to make and you're also holding back, you're also feeling like, oh, I shouldn't create, 3 give Instagram posts a day. Like that feels silly. Like I'm not stretching you. I'm not sitting there saying to like work unintentionally. But again, you want more, give more. You want more people paying attention to you, give more, pour more in, and your people will give you more as well. And again, I think there's this weird line with like worthiness and this idea that we're not supposed to actually work for our money. And I never really understood that fully. And I certainly can't speak to that place. Um, I don't know how to tell you how to do the bare minimum and make a shit ton of money. I wish I knew how to tell you how to do that, but I don't know how to I don't know how to do that. I haven't been able to do that. And so again, giving and giving massively and doing that from a purposeful place for yourself and for others, I think is the thing that is going to change a lot of businesses and really fucking quickly. And I always want to take a stand for that. The second thing that I want to talk about or the second thing that I think is I said this in the last episode, but number one, choosing fully or not choosing at all. But another way that I want to kind of like say this particular point is also slowing down. So right now we're in the process of doing a 4-day boot camp called Impact, where we just finished up day 2 this morning, and we talked a lot about offers and activating our ideal clients in that particular day of the boot camp. And as we were wrapping up, somebody said something along the lines of, "How do you know like how long to stick with an offer?" Or how do you know how to keep pushing an offer before you give up on it? I'm paraphrasing the way that she asked that question. And my very instinctual response to her was, you fucking choose fully or you don't choose at all. I think that the thing that I keep seeing from a lot of people is that maybe they were in a situation where a couple years ago, putting out an offer, getting 10 sales immediately as soon as they sent an email was easy for a while there. It was something that just happened. It wasn't something they had to like stress or work hard for. And again, with the amount of people that are now doing all the same things, like it has gotten busier. Again, I'll keep saying that. I'm not saying that in this like fear-based or scarcity-based way. It just feels realistic to me. It just feels like the reality to me. And so, whereas again, I've seen a lot of people who things were easier 4 years ago, in that way, they didn't strengthen their emotional mastery. They didn't build that muscle of waiting it out and pushing for something, even if it didn't come to them easily. I always call it Veruca salting. Like, there's no Veruca salting in my world. Like, I don't want to hear that I want it now and then I want to like take my ball and run and go home with it. Like, you can't do that. And so I'm saying that because I think too many people, and again, I've been guilty of this too. I always want to be clear about that. But too many people are half ass thinking about an offer that they want to offer or a way of marketing something, and they push it for 2 days, 3 days. They don't get the results that they want and they take their ball and go home. And that can't fucking happen. It can't happen. I'm telling you this transparently and honestly as a means of helping people. I sold again this $55 boot camp called Impact over the past week or so. And it did fine. Like I took quite a few days off of like really pushing it, just like personal things going on. And I can admit that I didn't like market it as much as I wanted to, but I think we have like 50 or so people signed up. I'm not mad about it. It's fine. So we have a good chunk of people signed up. But most of those sales came in the final hours. Like it definitely happened at the end, which I know you've heard a million times, but I'm stressing that because I feel like it was more extreme than ever before in terms of like the sales not coming in immediately. And I'm not insecure about sharing that with you because I know that I'm not alone in this. Like I know this feels like just a trend right now for everybody. And I keep seeing women that I work with, that I talk to, they feel like they are the exception to the rule. They feel like everybody is buying from everybody else instantaneously, but they're the ones that are waiting for sales. They're the ones who are screwing things up. So they're off to fix something or change something, or, okay, this offer is not going to work. So I'm going to jump to the next thing. And I believe so deeply that that is the thing that's hurting so many people more than it is that they chose the wrong offer or they chose the wrong price point, whatever it is. I would want you, and I've used this example before, but in a perfect world, I would want each one of you to envision yourselves almost as like inventors, right? So this is not you being somebody who's like, I want to be an inventor. I want to make a lot of money off of being an inventor. I'm going to invent this one thing. I'm going to try to push it. Okay, it didn't work. Okay, let me move to the next thing. Let me move to the next thing. Let me move to the next thing. I would want for you to instead be in this place where you have invented this thing that you believe in so goddamn deeply that you are not going to stop at anything before you stop like knocking on every single door, trying every different angle or avenue to get this thing sold because you believe in it so damn much. And so again, a lot of us, a lot of you are operating from this very egoic place of what can sell, what might sell, what can I do to hit this big income goal? We're rushing and we're going way too quickly, and we're not being intentional and smart about like, I'm only going to do what feels aligned for me. I'm only going to do the thing that I would choose fully to do. And I'm going to show up and do it to the best of my ability instead of accepting failure or accepting defeat so quickly. Because so often, again, I'm really, I want you to hear me when I say this, that like I'm saying this for you. My line that I use often is like, I'm defending you to you. And that's what this feels like right now. I'm defending you to you. You probably had something that you offered that was fucking brilliant, that people were ready to say yes to, that they were chomping at the bit to be able to throw their money at you. And in their mind, they're sitting there being like, oh, that's a great offer. I'm going to sign up on Friday, or I've got to check this out when I get home so I can buy this thing. And you, because you didn't get the instant validation, you shift gears, you close the sales page, you do something different. And I just want to express to you and remind you and drill home for you how much that is hurting so many of you. And more than it being about the sales, it's fucking with you from a confidence perspective. And I don't want it to do that. So again, I would want for each and every one of you to decide that you are going to sell something, whatever it is, and you believe in it so deeply. You care about it so much. You have created it from such a purposeful, aligned, embodied place that the idea that it is not going to work for you is simply laughable. It's not something you're willing to entertain. And sure, maybe there are some things that you have to tweak, that you have to move around. That's one thing. But the idea of bailing on it is a non negotiable. And I want to say this too. I've worked with so many clients who, well, let me say it this way. I say this often to my people, but I'm like, I don't work with women who fail easily. Like, I can pretty much guarantee that most of the people that are listening to this right now, if you have ever tried at anything, you have succeeded. The only times you have failed, quote unquote, is because you quit. If you actually gave your 100% all, it worked out for you. I feel very confident that's most of you that I'm speaking to right now. You're intelligent, you're brilliant, you're driven, you're determined, right? Like, I know that that's who you are. So I think when things like that happen where it's not working right away, so many of us beat ourselves up. We assume that we've done something wrong. And we, like, again, will kind of like abandon ship thinking that we've fucked up instead of recognizing that, like, if there was a gun to my head, if there was no other choice, I would get this done. I would make this happen. And so, not being in this place where there's so much spaciousness for yourself that, like, oh, I'm just going to jump to the next thing. I'm going to jump to the next thing. I want you to make your lives easier by, again, choosing fully or not choosing at all, and therefore slowing down with the thing that you have chosen, doing it as intentionally as humanly possible, and having the trust and the faith in yourself to make it work instead of, again, abandoning ship so freaking easily. Because, again, like I said, this is a money thing, this is a confidence thing, but this is also a burnout thing. I find that it's interesting, but also like no coincidence necessarily, that so many people that I'm speaking to right now, not only are they making less money than they previously have made, but they're also more exhausted than they've been in a long time. They're working harder than they have in a long time. And it feels like there's something that's got to give. And yet they're in this place where, okay, but I'm going to launch the next thing. I'm going to do the next thing. I'm going to create the next thing, because they're in this survival panicky mode of wanting to do more. not because again, they haven't chosen fully the thing that they were going to do in the first place. And so I know that I personally want to get a lot better about this. So again, just transparently to give you that example, again, I've been going through like some personal, I don't know, things, right, that have definitely like messed with me from a I guess from an energetic and from like an emotional perspective and not like in this horrible way, but I have had trouble sleeping over the past few months. I've been sadder about certain things than I have been in the past few months. And that has made me just move a little bit slower. I'm still very good at my job and I'm still doing a great job, but I haven't had as much capacity to like hustle as I have in previous moments in my life. And so when I launched Impact over the past few, whatever day it was, I think it was like last Tuesday, I basically gave it a week. I absolutely positively should have given myself more time. I should have slowed down and I should have chosen fully instead of putting this thing out there that I did believe in, that I was excited about, but I should have given myself more space so that I could make it fully worth it for myself, so I could choose it fully instead of kind of rushing it out there, having it start the next week, not fully marketing it to the best of my ability. And then, not that I'm unhappy with it because I think it's going great, but I definitely wish that I know that I'm capable of having double the amount of people in there. And I wish I had given myself the space to do that. And so that's an example where I'm kind of rushing, or I was rushing, and I wind up doing extra work because I wind up having to sell something else or jump into something else instead of really taking the time to give that thing the space that it needed and therefore get the results that I would have liked to be getting. And so again, I know from experience, I could have sold, a 4-day boot camp for $55, 100 spots to it. 4 years ago, I could have done that in 2 days. Things are a little bit slower now. And I mean that from like the algorithm perspective, from like people just being, exhausted from buying and so many different offers. Again, a million different reasons. And I'm going to keep saying it because I want to make sure that you're hearing me. I'm not saying that in this fear based or scarcity type of way, because I don't think that means shit. Like, I still know that I can very much still get 100 people to sign up for a program. I just have to adjust the way that I'm doing it. I have to be a little bit slower. I have to be a little bit smarter. And I can't act like it's 2020 where everybody was stuck in their houses watching live videos all day long. I have to adjust appropriately. And so, again, slowing down to see that and to adjust and to really make sure that I am creating something that works for me is really important. And again, it feels like it's really important for many of you as well. The third thing that is in for me is repetition. So I was just having this also conversation on impact, and I felt like it was important to say to all of you as well here. I've, if you've, listened to me for any particular period of time, I have shared with you a zillion times that back in 2016/17, I went through a really terrible breakup. I was on the couch, crying for months. I was dead broke, couldn't pay my rent. And finally, after a few months of that, I said, fuck this shit. I had my revenge bank account moment. I had my show up and blow up moment where I started showing up every single day, doing live videos every single day. And I turned my business around and therefore my life around in a 30-day period. I have had a lot of moments transparently, and this might sound funny because you're like, yes, Sarah, we've heard this fucking story a million times. So it might sound funny for me to say this, but there has also been a lot of insecurity for me about sharing that story over and over again. Cause it's like, I never, well, I think just like from just a personal perspective, I never want anybody to think like, God, she's still hung up on this guy, because God knows that is not the case. But like, it was a huge catalyst and a huge lesson in my life. There was no other moment in my entire life that was more of a defining moment than that. It changed, again, everything for my life and business, how I operated in my business, therefore the money that I made, so on and so forth. So I share it all the time because I think it's really important. And I have had plenty of moments of feeling insecure around that, like, Sarah, shut the fuck up, get a new story, or, like, focus on something else. People are sick of hearing this, all the stories that I could possibly tell myself. However, seeing so many people online, again, doing the same things. 4 years ago, there were a lot of people doing the similar things to what I do, let alone now, right? I feel like it's just like, it's nonstop with the amount of business coaches, whatever, that are popping up out there. It was funny. A few months ago, I don't remember who this was. So if you're like on this video right now, please don't take this as like me saying something negative about you or towards you, because that's not the way that I mean it. But I made a post, something about like being too in your face when you're selling. Like, I was saying something about, confidence whispers, or like true confidence whispers where like insecurity shouts. Because I think that in order to get something sold and you beating people over the head with like, I'm good at what I do, I'm good at what I do, like it's not a good look. It feels like very much like a pick me vibe. So whatever. It was a post about selling. And somebody commented on my post to be something about like, we should as women be encouraging other women to like sell unapologetically, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, lady, like I know that. Like I've been preaching that since 2017. Again, I'll say it again. I'm not trying to act like I was like the inventor of selling every day, especially because I feel like I modeled, like I saw Kat Laterzo specifically doing a lot of it. And I feel like I took like that, I hired her, but I also like kind of like took that business model and made it my own. So I'm not saying that again, I'm the first one to ever, invent the concept of selling every day. But what I can say for sure is that back in 2017, it was not the norm in our industry. It was not the normal way people were going about things. Most people were doing, again, sales calls, selling one on one coaching. So I have been preaching and teaching and talking about selling every day literally since early 2017. Early 2017, I have been talking about that. And so the idea that somebody like, didn't know me, which again, like they didn't know me. I have stopped, I closed down my Facebook group. So now I'm showing up more on my Facebook profile. So I have people who might have been connected with me, but didn't actually know me or weren't familiar with my body of work. And so again, I'm saying that because that was an interesting moment for me where not that I think everybody in the world knows me, obviously, but in this way of like, oh, the things that I have been preaching and saying over and over and over again, not everybody, of course, has heard it or has embraced it or has remembered it the way that I feel like I do. And so now, whereas I used to feel a little bit insecure about continuing to talk about that story, now I feel so proud and louder about sharing it because I'm so proud of the fact that like my philosophies, my way of doing business, my thought process, I've grown a lot as a person since 2017, but for the most part, I've been preaching and teaching the same stuff. I believe the same things in terms of business, and I'm proud of the fact that so much of what I believe feels timeless to me. It's not this, I'm not teaching you these trends or here's how to make this reel go viral. Like I think that I teach from this really timeless perspective about how to understand all of this on a core level. And the fact that I, again, have not switched up my philosophies or my way of doing things a million times since 2017 is something to not only be really proud of, but also to own the fuck out of, especially in this landscape where everybody and their mother has decided they're a business coach, even if they made $5, they made $10,000 in their first $10,000 month. And now they're teaching and preaching about that. And like they've done it once or twice. Whereas like I literally have not had a month that was not a 5-figure month since February of 2017. Like that was January of 2017 was the last time I did not have a 5-figure month. Like I've been doing this shit. Like this is not my first rodeo. And so again, I'm saying that because rather than feeling like, oh, I want to move on to the next shiny, exciting thing, or I want to talk about something different, I know now more than ever that I have to embrace my foundation. I have to embrace what is really true and like at my core, who I am and what I do in terms of authority building and not being afraid to own that. And I look back on years like 2018, which I've talked about so much, but I don't know. It always feels important to me to remind you of because 2018 was such a hard year for me. Like I was broke in 2018. I had a $500,000 year, which I'm always going to say to you because I want to remind you that it wasn't as though I wasn't making money. We had a $500,000 year, but I way over invested in coaches, in support. I always like to say that I was reckless in the name of abundance. And I just really mismanaged my money that year. And there was literally a time where I had like my cleaning lady coming to take care of my apartment. And I'm like, I don't know if I do not have $100 cash to like give this person right now. And so it was a bad year for me. And it was a bad year for me, so much so because I thought I had to be something different. I thought I had to talk about shiny objects. I thought I had to be more feminine and more spiritual. Like I thought I had to be so many different things. And I was, as a means of trying to keep up with the Joneses, if you will, I was constantly reinventing the wheel. But more than that, I was constantly abandoning myself. I was not sticking to what was tried and true for me. I wasn't sticking to the things that I could say with my fucking chest. I was saying the things that I kind of sort of understood, that I kind of sort of knew, but again, mostly what I thought I had to say to be right, to get the sale. And it wasn't even about getting the sale. I think that I don't mean to say this in a bad way towards anybody else, but I think I surrounded myself at that time uh, with the wrong mentors. And not that they were wrong, because I think I learned a lot from them, but I think that there was also this very toxic energy, not even toxic, it was unhealthy on my end. I was putting people on pedestals instead of really embracing that, like, hey, Sarah, you did this, you had your first 500K year, so by being you and doing things your way, you can have a bigger year, right? Like, you can go bigger. I thought I had to be like somebody else, or just adjust myself to go to the next level, which was not true at all. And so again, I'm saying that because it's such a solid and important reminder to myself, and hopefully to you, that certainty is everything. You are going to make so much more money when you're talking about and sharing and selling things that you are fully certain of and you believe in fully, instead of the things that you kind of sort of believe. And so if you really believe in something, right? If you really believe in a way of being a health coach, or you really believe in this philosophy for styling your clients, right? Like, the list could go on and on and on. Assuming you really believe those things, sure, you can evolve your messaging and it can grow and change a bit, but like, at its core, it probably should be pretty similar to what you've been preaching this whole time, right? Like, those foundational beliefs, those stories should still be relevant and should still be really a big part of your toolbox. And so again, I just want to remind you here that a lot of people are, like I said, reinventing the wheel, but more than that, self-abandoning in the name of going bigger and making more. And I find over and over again, the simpler we get, the more consistent we get in terms of repeating the message, repeating the systems, that allows us to go to the next level so much more quickly. And it's something that I'm, again, just working on embracing, instead of feeling like I'm so eager to grow and do new things that I'm doing new things and I'm attempting to grow way more quickly than I should be, or I'm trying to be somewhere else. I'm trying to escape. I'm trying to, like, get out of my own way. And it's not helpful. And so those are the three things that feel in for me, hopefully in for you. And then I want to talk about the three outs. And I had, like, for the record, I had like a list of like 15 for each of these. I really had to narrow them down because otherwise we'd be talking for 62 hours. So, and of course, you know me, I love a rant. So the outs list was a little bit longer, but the first out, and I talked a little bit about this in the last episode, but it's twisting yourself into a pretzel for each platform. For a little while there, and this is the specific reason I want to talk about it, is like, I have definitely gone down a TikTok rabbit hole as a user, right? I think we all know, we watch one video and then we can't get off there. All of a sudden, it's embarrassing for me to say, but the amount of tarot card readings I have read in like the past week is mortifying. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like for me. And it's like, no, Sarah, like, the algorithm knows that you keep watching videos like this. So they keep telling you what you want to hear. But still, I have like not been able to get off it for a week. It's awful. But in going down like the TikTok rabbit hole, um, it is a situation where it is a younger generation. It's a different way of doing things. And not to make myself sound like an old lady here, but I am 39. Uh, I'm not 20 years old, right? As I've joked about many times, if you ever see me, singing or dancing or crying on a video or on a selfie, I I ask that you send help, because there is something severely wrong, because that is not something that I would actually do unless I was like held hostage. Not that there's anything wrong with any of those things. It is not who I am. I just want to talk to you. I don't want to dance. I can't dance. I don't want to cry for you. Like, the idea of like picking up a phone when I'm crying, it has never crossed my mind in my entire 39 years of life. Like, it just has not. And so I know how I do things. I know how I don't do things. Again, that's not to criticize you. If you put up a crying selfie and it feels really therapeutic or helpful or embodied for you, please don't take that as me criticizing you. I'm simply saying that it's not me. So if we go on something like TikTok, the little things like, I feel like these Gen Z motherfuckers, like, always making fun of us with like the millennial pause, or, the millennial zoom. God knows they, took our skinny jeans, all the other things, right? I feel like there is this air of like, especially on TikTok, that you have to adapt to TikTok in order to make it work. And I'm not saying that there's no validity to that at all, but as I've said many times before, it's more important to me that, let's just say somebody comes across my TikTok and I would rather it feel authentic to me and them see my videos, and even if it's whatever, a little bit different or it's not very TikToky, however you wanna say that, somebody could see it, see clearly that I'm good at what I do, see clearly that they can get value from this, and be okay with that or not be okay with that. Maybe that means my one video doesn't go as viral as I would like for it to. I'm not gonna sit there and lie and say that I don't want zillions of, well, I don't know if I want zillions of followers on TikTok. It's kind of toxic. But I want, of course, more followers. I want more people throwing money at me naturally. While at the same time, I have to stay true to myself in pursuing that. And I'm not going to, again, attempt to be somebody else or do things in a totally different way that is abandoning who I am at my core in order to make that happen. And with so many platforms, with so many different options that we all have to show up online, I want to give you permission to, maybe embrace the fact that, like, maybe you are 39 like me, and it's okay to just focus on Facebook. I was having that conversation with somebody a few weeks ago, and they're like, is Facebook still a relevant thing? And I'm like, it is for me. Like, I tried for a while there to feel like, okay, or not that I was trying to feel that way, but I think I was made to feel for a little while there that, like, Facebook's over. Facebook isn't the place where you want to sell anymore. There's all these other platforms. And again, I'm not trying to act as though I'm like not in reality when it comes to the times and how things have changed. While at the same time, I know that I'm not selling to a bunch of 19-year-olds. I'm selling to people who are my age. I'm selling to people who are still comfortable with Facebook. And so that's okay. And so beating myself up about like not jumping on trends or not evolving and not twisting myself into a pretzel for the trends, for the platforms, I've let that go and I've given myself permission to just like not let that be something that tortures me. And again, I wanted to say that for many of you because, God, I mean, I've said this so many times and I just believe it deeply that the, I think the hardest part of entrepreneurship for me has hands down been managing all of my ideas and all the things that I want to do and figuring out how to do that in an aligned way and not having every single idea and then pursuing every single idea, right? Like if I had a million hours a day and a huge team and $1 billion in my bank account, I would want to have content on all different platforms and do all those things, but I'm not equipped to do them. So just because I know I'm capable of basically taking over the world, I have to also balance that out with what I'm equipped to do. And I'm not equipped to take over the world. I'm not equipped to do everything. And if I want to be happy, if I want to actually live a life that I enjoy, I can't continue to force myself to do every single thing. And so again, I've been, such a proponent for years now of simplicity and of doing things the way that you want to do them and not feeling like you have to be on a zillion platforms in order to make money. So that still rings true. And I want to just take that a little bit further with you also. Not only do not have to be on every single platform, but you don't have to attempt to, again, squeeze yourself into every single trend or every way of doing things. Good content is good content. Classic value, classic information is still very much relevant and very much helpful, especially for your right people. And I'm okay with making peace with the idea that, what, if somebody needs to see, like, I'll say it this way, like, I just, I mean, I know you guys know this, but like, I have zero motherfucking interest in like sharing every detail of my weekend with you. I have very little interest in being out at dinner and taking out my phone so I can take a picture of what I'm eating. I have very little interest in pouring my cup of tea in the morning and showing you how I did it. And I'm not saying that those things are bad, and I watch some of those things sometimes, but it's not who I am and it's not what I want to do. And so again, I have to make peace with that and be okay with that and trust that the way that I show up is right for my ideal clients. And if there is somebody thinking about hiring me because they think I'm smart, they think I'm strategic, blah, 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 but they don't see enough of my weekends or they don't know more about like my personal life and, again, what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, I'm okay with the fact that then I'm not the person for them. I'm really okay with that. I'm truly and honestly at my core, I'm okay with that. And I want for more of you to be okay with that too, because you trying to be everybody for everyone it's just not going to work. I know you know that. I know I've said it a million times. I know everyone else has said that a million times, but I want to remind you here that like I'm going to go to the second point, actually, the second out here. But I want you to enjoy your life and recognize that life comes first. So the second out number two, if you will, is misery in the name of more money. I have had several conversations lately with either close friends or clients. And, often the question that is coming up for me is like, when is enough enough? Because I've seen a lot of people push themselves and work themselves to, six-figure plus months and be so goddamn stressed out and have their relationships be falling apart and they can't remember the last time that they called their friends, so on and so forth. And again, I've been there. I don't know that I've been there as much as I feel like work for many years was like a coping mechanism. Um, I don't know. I don't think anyone does it from this like money hungry place, but everyone just wants security. But my point is that we've all been there where we don't recognize like when enough is enough because from looking back a few years ago too, where not that it's not relevant now, but the whole, sharing about how much money we made this month, this week, whatever. I mean, I've definitely dialed that down because I'm just over it and I'm bored of it and it just feels very new money to me. But it feels like for me that in that transparency and that level of sharing, I think there's a lot of good things about it. Like women should be talking about money. Women should be striving to make more money. Women should be unapologetic about making more money. All of those things I deeply believe in. While at the same time, I think in some cases, the numbers that we have all expected ourselves to normalize, it's kind of crazy. Like, don't get me wrong. I would be very happy if I was doing consistent six-figure months. I know that I'm capable of doing six-figure months. Do I need to make six figures a month? No. Having fun and having time to go play pickleball and not having to like rush home from the gym because I don't feel like I have time because I have to like work on my business. That is more important to me at this point in my life than hitting six-figure months. And there might be a time a week from now that that changes. I give myself permission to kind of like go in waves with it all. But I think a lot of people get to this point where they're just scaling and scaling and scaling, or wanting to at least. And they're making themselves more miserable, more stressed out. And for what? For money that you don't necessarily need. Like I think all of us could be pretty comfortable with like $50,000 a month, right? And I know there's nuance to this. Like I was having a conversation with a friend the other day, and she's at a point where in her business, she has a medical practice. Like they need to be doing 150K a month with their team, right? So again, it's not as though anybody who's making that amount of money, they're just putting it in their pockets and calling it a day. But I don't want you to feel as though you have to compete with the other people you see online, and in doing so, abandon your happiness, abandon your life, abandon your hobbies, right? Like it feels really important to me that I have those things. Like again, I think I told you, I don't know if I said this last week, but I've been taking drumming lessons, which I laugh every single time I say it because I'm so bad. I'm not so bad, but I'm definitely not good. And I feel like I should definitely be better at this point. Like it's been like 4 or 5 months now. I'm not good. And every single fucking Tuesday, I go at 7 p.m. And every Tuesday, I'm like, I don't want to go. I want to cancel this. Like, I'm tired. I had a long day. I don't have time for this. I could be, writing an email. I could be doing whatever. And then I go and I'm so happy that I went. I feel so good that like I got out of like my normal, workflow, whatever, and just did something that is so inconsequential, right? Like it doesn't matter if I suck at the drums. My instructor's name is Dusty, which is, I think is just very funny because like, of course it is. But like I think I'm his only like adult student, and he has like a 4-year-old student, which I find very like funny because I'm pretty sure that the 4-year-old is like moving more quickly than me, but whatever. But like, I have to catch myself every single week because I'll get frustrated like if I don't get a certain thing right away. And I have to keep remembering here that like this doesn't fucking matter. Like it does not matter if I'm ever good at this. If I never nail the drums, if I never nail a single song, it doesn't matter. It really does not matter. This is strictly to have a hobby, to learn something different, to just be doing something that is out of my comfort zone and simply playing. And I'm sad for the former version of myself that wouldn't give herself the time to actually do something like that because all she had to do was work. I'm so glad that I will do those things now. And so again, I want to remind you here that the goal why we're doing this really should be a situation where life comes first and we're building a business that actually works for the lives that we want to build versus the other way around. And I'm willing to bet that 99% of you listening to this, you don't plan your days based on like what you actually want to be doing in your life and then fitting business into that. It's like, oh, I'm going to work and I'm going to get all these things done, and then if I have time for, relationships, whatever, after that, then I'll squeeze that in. And it should really be the opposite way around. And I actually didn't finish the video. I should, but Vanessa Lau, who I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, she kind of quit her business like a year ago. Her seven-figure business. She had a killer like course company. I'm not super familiar with her, but like big YouTuber, big business, made a lot of money. And she recently like came back from a big hiatus, and she was speaking to how, I was scaling at the detriment of everything in my life, like my mental health, my physical health, my relationships. And she walked away from it all. She took a big hiatus. And again, I didn't finish the video, but I was so impressed by her level of just honesty and authenticity and the realness that she shared that I think a lot of people are afraid to actually say. And so, I don't know, I just want to remind you here that like if you are making yourself miserable so that you can hit 100K month so that you can talk about it online, I get it. I've been there. But like it might be time to get your priorities straight. It might be time to assess what's actually important to you or why you're chasing that goal. And again, if you're doing it, but and let me say it this way too. As I've said to you many times before, my very first $113,000 month was April of 2020. I almost said 2021, but it's 2020. And it was the easiest month ever. Obviously, nobody was leaving the house. So that was a different story. I couldn't go play the drums. But it was a very easy month for me. It was very simple. It was very aligned. And so I'm not suggesting that 100K months require misery or whatever number, you want to insert in that equation. I'm not saying that it has to mean misery, but I also know that a lot of you are making yourself miserable in the name of bigger numbers. And I just want, for your sake, to not do that and to allow, again, life and happiness to ultimately come first. Because what's most important, right? What is most important? And, I'll say it one more time. I want you to make a fuck ton of money, but not at the expense of your happiness. And there's a way to find a balance with that. And then the final thing, the third thing that is out for me, for you, is putting anyone else on a pedestal. I want to say this that, and I might butcher this, but I found this TikToker, and I've like fell down a rabbit hole of her videos, and I'm always kind of like working on my more feminine side, and especially when it comes to like dating, I want to be more just embodied and not in my head as much as I am. I've done a lot of work on this, and I've come a long way, but I'm not perfect, and I'm always working on it a little bit more and more, especially switching gears between being the business owner and then being a woman on a date, right? Like it's a difficult thing for me sometimes to like navigate both of those things, but I came across this TikToker who the way that she talks about it felt like it made more sense to me than probably anything else that I had ever watched or heard. And she basically describes it as in any relationship dynamic, there is the black cat and there is the golden retriever. That's all there is to it. There's only one of each. There is the person, the black cat, who is chill, unbothered, knows that they are the prize, knows that they are the person that other person should be, following. They'd be okay if the other person walked away. And then you have the golden retriever. The golden retriever who is more attached to the outcome, is more likely to do the following, is more attached to, again, the outcome of what actually happens, and typically more anxious because of that. And I loved, she shared so many different couples, and it being so obvious when she would like pull up a couple and like energetically instantly I'm like, oh yeah, black cat, golden retriever, like I know who's who. It was so helpful for me to again see that visual representation of energy. And so I'm saying that because one of the things that we talked about on day one of Impact yesterday was how important it is that you recognize that like you are the black cat of your life and the black cat of your content. And obviously you're dating, but I'm not here to preach to you necessarily about that because God knows I'm not an expert. But so many people will put so many others above them when it comes to how they're showing up online and in their business. That might mean other people in the sense of like other coaches. I went through, like I said, a really toxic and really unhealthy couple years there of just feeling like I had to keep up with certain people or I had to like rise to their levels. And I very much put a lot of people above me. But also a lot of you are putting the sales above you, right? You are feeling as though that anxious energy and you feel as though you have to be a certain person or act a certain way when you're showing up as a means to get the sale because you're so attached to the outcome and you're not recognizing that you again are the black cat. You're the person who is brilliant, a genius, an expert who knows all these things, can blow somebody's mind, can change their lives. You're acting as though how do I get the other people's attention? How do I get their sale? You're being the golden retriever instead of the black cat. And so I wanted to just, again, say to you and remind you that I don't care if you are dead broke right now. I don't care if you are in a bad situation from a money, validation, engagement perspective, right? I respect it. I get it. I've been there. My compassion is with you. But don't you dare let that situation make you forget how fucking good you are at what you do. Don't you dare allow that situation to make you turn into somebody else who has to, again, chase sales or try hard or people please in order to get what you want. Because I trust that if you are listening to me right now, that you are good at what you do. You're probably not good at everything. You're probably trying to do a lot of things that you're not that good at, tough love there. But I know that you are good at some things. I know that you are, I shouldn't say good, great at some things, and you are worthy and deserving of getting sales and showing up and sharing content that blows people's minds very easily without you having to try so hard. And I want you to remember that and re-anchor that instead of feeling again like you're on this constant chase to keep up with other people or to please other people or to get their sales or that they have all of the power and you don't. It's way more important that you understand that you are, again, the black cat in the situation and nobody is above you. Nobody is more important than you. Nobody else gets to be on a pedestal above you. And the moment that you put yourself on a pedestal instead, recognizing what you are worth and what you deserve, and that whatever circumstance you're in right now, you can have the emotional mastery to remember that and then show up as if you don't need a damn thing. Momentum happens so quickly when you do that and when you remember that. And again, I want you all to remember that because we're all going to have our moments. I have them all the time. And it was, I'll say this, that like it was funny to me because I preach this so often with business. Like I've I'm not perfect, but I've got it down pretty much to a fucking science around how to take the emotions out of sales and content and do what I need to do. Again, doing this for a long time, I can do that. My dating life, no, I don't get a text, for an hour and I'm like having a panic attack. Not all the time, but like I have my moments, right? And so again, it's just interesting for me to put something through a different lens in that way, because meaning I understand how hard it can be. But once you get it, you get it. And I'm sure for a lot of you, there are those areas of your life where you are really solid, right? Like maybe dating like doesn't phase you at all. Like it's a joke to, stress a text back because you know who you are, you know what you're worthy of, this person deciding what you're worthy of is not a thing, right? Like you decide your worth. It gets to be the same thing in business. And I want for more of you, again, to get to that place of emotional mastery and not abandoning yourself in the name of what you think you need or want from your audience, and that you lead. Like you are in charge. It's your job to be obsessed with yourself and what you do and how you do it, and let the people, turn into the golden retrievers and follow you rather than the other way around. And so, again, all those things, they are what I am focused on this year, forever probably. And I encourage you to do the same. And so, yeah, I hope this was helpful. Again, if you're listening to this as a podcast episode, I am going live every single Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific as a live show on my Facebook profile, on YouTube, on Instagram, hopefully on TikTok. We're having an issue. It's like not syncing up for whatever reason, the app, but also people on TikTok are assholes. A lot of them are. And so, man, like maybe, God, universe is protecting me in that way and not letting me do lives, but whatever. I want to eventually, we'll see if we can do them on TikTok live. But I want to, as I'm recording these, I'm trying my best to like not respond to a bunch of comments because obviously I don't want to distract myself and give poor Gretchen a million things to edit out. While at the same time, I want to start having these be a little bit more interactive, maybe full episodes that are just, Q&A. I love talking to you guys. I love interacting with you. I love that live energy, and it's what I'm hoping to bring, to the show more of. Um, and obviously I can't do that without you. And so I just say that to join me, to be there. I appreciate it. And again, I think it makes a better show. And so yeah, I will talk to you guys next week. And I hope you have